Welcome to Game Week 2 predictions for the Premier League. Today we're going to go through all 10 games and give you my score predictions with new, fresh, updated graphics, and also look at my score predictions for Game Week 1 and how they actually compared to the final scores. This year we are going to be highly consistent on this channel, so this is going to be a weekly series. First things first, each week we are going to go through last week's scores, see how many points we got for our correct and incorrect predictions, and then go into the ones for the upcoming game week. So let's look at Game Week 1 predictions. As you can see immediately by glancing at it, we only got 5 points. A reminder of the scoring system: if you get the score completely wrong and the result wrong, you get no points. If you get the result right but not the score, you get 1. And if you get everything bang on, you get 3 points. So I got 5 results right out of 10. It's okay. Half right, half wrong. Let's quickly go through them though. Liverpool, I got it right. I didn't think that they would be as bad at the back as they were in that game, but not too bad a prediction. Whereas Aston Villa 3-2 against Newcastle, that game was just poor. I thought that both teams would be significantly better. My bad. Brighton I thought would be a little bit better than they actually were. Fulham getting that clutch goal with Muniz at the end of the game. And then the first really wrong one, I went the complete opposite way here. I thought that West Ham would be too good for Sunderland. No, the opposite. Sunderland were really good. West Ham defensively were dreadful. 2 really good headers for the Sunderland goals, and then the third one, what was Hermansen doing? I have no idea. Spurs, I was close. I thought that they'd be pretty good and that Burnley would struggle to score, but I thought that Burnley's defence would be a little bit better than it ended up being. However, how do you account for a Richarlison overhead kick? I thought Man City would be more leaky in the defence than they were against Wolves. Clearly, Cunha and Aït-Nouri have been significant losses for them. I thought that Arias would actually play properly in this game, but no. And yeah, Man City, I got the right amount of goals, but sadly, no extra points for that. Chelsea and Palace were both pretty poor. It kind of looked a bit like 2 teams on hangovers after winning trophies towards the beginning of the season. So, fair enough. And then Forest, they did better than I thought. I didn't think that Brentford would be great, which is why I didn't put them to score, but they did get 1, but Forest getting 3. Really good start to the season for them. And then I thought it would be relatively close between Man United and Arsenal, but give it to Arsenal. It wasn't really how it went. Man United were the better team in this game, and yet they ended up losing due to their keeper not being strong enough on a corner. So at least I got the result right, even if things didn't really look like they were going to pan out that way throughout the game. And then the other mistake was predicting another promoted team to lose, when in fact Everton were shocking and Leeds played through them, especially in that first half, like they weren't even there. So 5 points for Game Week 1. Ideally, we're going to build on that going into Game Week 2. Let's get into the first match, which is the Friday night kickoff. Today, West Ham against Chelsea. I think Chelsea are going to bounce back from that poor performance against Palace, where Cole Palmer and the rest were just struggling a little bit. Whereas West Ham, I think if you're coming off the back of a loss against a promoted team, that is going to be such a hit to your confidence. At least Palace just won the Community Shield, right? They're flying high after beating Liverpool there. There's maybe excuses that you can say, but Sunderland smashing you 3-0? Yeah, I don't have faith in this defence so far of West Ham. Hopefully, for their sake, Potter can turn things around pretty quickly, but I think Chelsea and Maresca are going to have too much for them. Man City versus Spurs is always a really dodgy one to predict because Spurs are City's bogey team, basically every season. Will that still be the case with a new manager in Thomas Frank? It's obviously very hard to say. Man City looked very impressive in their first game, and especially Reinders. What a signing he has turned out to be already for them with that goal and assist, going huge in the first game. Also a pre-assist for one of the other goals that he wasn't technically involved in. So Man City looking great. Haaland getting 2 goals to kick off the season. If he can continue in the next few weeks, then everyone's going to have him in their FPL and they're going to have to decimate their team to do it. Spurs looking great, but they were against Burnley, who most people are putting like 20th in their league predictions, so it doesn't mean as much, which is why I think City are going to win, even though it is the early kickoff. Getting into the 3 o'clocks on Saturday, we've got Bournemouth up against Wolves. Wolves, of course, the team that got decimated by Manchester City in that first game. Bournemouth looking okay against Liverpool, causing them some trouble and problems, combining the two, even with their defence getting destroyed by 3 of them or 4 of them being bought by other teams in the summer. So I think Bournemouth are going to have too much for Wolves here, and I think they're going to pick up the victory 2-1. 2 promoted teams facing off against each other already. We've got Burnley against Sunderland. Of course, Sunderland having a significantly better result in the opening weekend. Both teams having a 3-0 scoreline, but one winning, one losing. And that's pretty much what we've got to base it on. Last summer, you would have predicted Burnley to beat Sunderland 2-0 because that's what they did against both. Basically everybody in the league, really. Their league goals conceded was something crazy like 16, but we all knew that was not going to keep up in the Premier League. Sunderland, though, just looked free, and their attack was really solid. So I think they're going to continue that form into game 2, and they're going to take this big 6 points in 2 games. They could be top of the league. Brentford against Aston Villa is up next, and as I said before, Villa disappointing against Newcastle. They weren't creating enough. Of course, they did get the red card with Ezri Konsa picking that up, which of course hindered them. So he's not going to be able to play this game. He is only banned for 1 game, so they will get him back very, very soon. But that means they are going to have to at least change the lineup a little bit in this match. But maybe if they had a full team, they could have got the victory against Newcastle, who, again, even against 10, disappointing. So I think Villa, as long as they avoid those stupid mistakes in game week 2, are going to pick up the win against a just dismantled Brentford team that just, they don't look the same, do they? 2 teams coming up against each other that had quite different first games of the season. Both winning 1-0, but in completely different ways. Arsenal looking like the second best team in their game against United. They were getting run ragged by Cunha and Mbeumo, who, if they had their shooting boots on, probably could have got 2 goals each. Whereas Leeds, as I said before, that first half, they were all over Everton. And this Farker ball was crazy. The first touch passing, like just playing it between the lines really, really quickly was very impressive. They did require a penalty that has gone down controversially in order to get the win because they weren't quite good enough in front of goal themselves. But it's still impressive for a promoted team. I do, however, think at the Emirates, Arsenal are going to have a bit too much. Gyökeres is going to have had another week full of training in the team, and he's, hopefully for their sake, going to look a little bit fitter. On the ball, he was a little bit disappointing, but physically and in terms of his positioning, it was impressive. Leeds made a couple of signings since then, though. Whether they're going to be able to play straight away like Okafor up front, we'll have to wait and see, but I think Arsenal will be a little bit too much here and take that win. Palace up against Forest. I think that Forest are going to take the win here. Chris Wood already fit and firing this season, with Gibbs White also involved in those goals. Their defence was questioned going into this season whether it would be anywhere near as good as last year, and of course they didn't keep a clean sheet in their first game, but they still got the win. Palace, on the other hand, as I said before, a bit sort of hungover against Chelsea, not really that impressive. Eze is now not going to be playing for them. He should be officially an Arsenal player, most likely by the time that this game kicks off. Gahey, still question marks over whether he is going to stay at the club. Will they be replacing Eze immediately with the likes of El Kanous from us or somebody else? It doesn't really look like that will happen in time for this game. So I think that's going to rock them a bit, losing one of your biggest talisman in the squad. So I'll give Forest the win. We also have Everton against Brighton at the same time, and I think Brighton will take the victory here. Everton just really disappointing in that first game. Didn't look like they really had enough against a promoted team, let against a team that has sort of risen up the ranks in recent seasons. So I think it does depend on whether Grealish starts. If he comes off the bench again whilst he's building up his fitness, I think that may cost them. Because when he did come on, there were times where he looked fantastic, but Beto let them down massively. Are we going to see Barry start for them instead? That was what everyone expected going into this season, but for whatever reason didn't happen in the first game. And Beto was arguably their worst player and ruined their attacks, whether it was from Alcaraz, Ndiaye, Grealish, Dewsbury Hall. It all ended up at Beto, and the less said, the better. Brighton, in my overall Prem predictions, I didn't have them as high as most people. I still don't think they're going to be incredible this season, but I think they'll have enough to beat Everton. Fulham up against Man United. United really, really good against Arsenal. Simple as that, really. I think that is going to continue into this game. There are still so many question marks over who they're potentially going to get in as that second midfielder next to Bruno Fernandes. But attacking-wise, it was free-flowing. It looked amazing. Are we going to see Šeško start this game? If so, I think that will be very, very fun to watch because Cunha and Mbeumo looked amazing, but they lacked that final focal point up front. And so I'd really like to see that happen. They basically ended up playing as a front two with the strike like dropping in. It was bizarre at times, Mason Mount. So Fulham, just meh, really. I don't think that they're going to have enough against United. But I don't fully trust United's defence, especially with the question marks over both of their goalkeepers. It still looks like they're going to bring in the one from, I believe it's Club Brugge, Lammers, I think is his name. So clearly the club think the same thing. And so that's why I've got them to concede. But the final game of match week 2, or game week 2, however you want to call it, is Newcastle up against Liverpool. Newcastle, I mean, it's just all over the place, isn't it? This transfer window. They've been turned down by so many players. It's crazy. Isak's situation is still not resolved. We still don't know whether he's going to end up at Liverpool or whether he's basically going to be forced to stay at Newcastle. If that is the case, is he actually going to get reintegrated and start playing games soon? He's absolutely not going to be playing this match. That much is certain. So, I think Liverpool, they weren't as impressive as I thought they would be in their first game, but they still did enough and they still scored 4 goals. Liverpool's biggest question mark right now, though, is right back. Conor Bradley is injured. Frimpong is injured. He's out for a month. I don't believe Joe Gomez is fit, who has substituted in at fullback in the past, so I don't know exactly what they're planning to do with that position here. Are they going to bring someone like Kirkes over to the right and play a Simicast or something like that? No idea. They'll figure it out, I'm sure. But I said this in my Premier League predictions, the full table. I think Liverpool this season are going to be an extreme version of what you saw with Bielsa ball under Leeds, where because of the fashion that they've got with their fullbacks, both bombing forward as much as they possibly can, even though I don't think either of them were amazing in the first game. Kirkes and Frimpong both getting subbed off 1 minute before the clean sheet on FPL. Kirkes diving in, getting booked as well at one point. They've got to settle a little bit. But it basically means their aim is not to win a game 1-0. It's to get 3, 4, 5 goals. And we will outscore you rather than just beating you normally. So that's why I've got Newcastle to score here as well. Gordon, Barnes, Elanga, front 3, most likely. Looking like it's going to be, again, going into this game. So I just don't think it's going to be enough. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do get a goal. So Liverpool, for me, are going to take the victory here. Those are my thoughts on Game Week 2 in the Prem. Leave your predictions down in the comments. As I say, this is going to be a weekly thing. Hopefully you enjoy the improved graphical representation of all of these predictions, as well as the previous scores and the points and stuff like that. Let me know your thoughts on it all, and I'll see you for another video very soon. In a bit.